The Illinois Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability being asked to review the tax implications of Illinois' gun and magazine ban, the Protect Illinois Communities Act, and I've got a copy of that analysis here, and I chatted with State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer, Republican from Jacksonville, or that area. I believe he moved to a different location, but either way, he's on the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability, where he reviewed this document and gave us his take. So welcome back. It is Bishop on Air. Each and every weekday morning, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and we can make it happen, all right? All right, so let's get to this. The Protect Illinois Communities Act. It's, of course, the measure that passed the General Assembly and Governor J.B. Pritzker enacted way back in January of 2023. In all the litigation that's been going on, of course, you got the Southern District case that's still ongoing with some deadlines to file a variety of different discovery things with those litigants, and that's going to be coming up here in the weeks ahead. But of course, with the lawsuits continuing, you have questions about other impacts, not just the constitutional impacts that there may be, but also you've got a variety of other questions like the tax implications that there are. So let's get right on into this, and I'll read this to you as I have it here presented to me in a printed out document. It says, the Protect Illinois Communities Act bans the sale and distribution of assault weapons, high-capacity magazines, and switches in Illinois. It says the primary fiscal impacts of this law to the states would be changes in the amount of sales taxes collected and the amount of firearms and ammunition tax, which is FAET, distribution from the federal government to Illinois on the sale of firearms defined as assault weapons. While these remain questions on which precise weapons will be banned under this act, for this analysis, the commission's focusing on the reduced revenues related to rifles, which are assumed to be in the category of firearms most affected by this legislation. Interesting. Due to the lack of data, the commission said, and potential changes in the marketplace, the commission's unable to provide a precise estimate of the fiscal impact of this legislation. However, the commission can offer some insight into the magnitude of the amount of tax revenue involved here. So based on the data, the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability said they looked at the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau and federal government, and they received approximately $200 million to $379 million in federal firearms and ammunition tax revenue over the past 5 years from other firearms, COGFA says, which would include rifles and shotguns. This equates to approximately $2 billion to $3.8 billion in total U.S. sales. Assuming Illinois makes a similar portion of these sales as it does to the country's population as a whole, COGFA says Illinois would see sales of approximately $77 million to $145 million per year. Applying the state's 5% portion of the statewide 6.25% sales tax would equal approximately $4 to $7 million per year in sales taxes. The local portion of that sales tax amounts to approximately $1 million to $2 million per year. Combined, the tax reduction would equal around $5 to $9 million per year. The changes from the new gun law would likely reduce this amount by an unknown percentage, as it's unknown how many of the purchases in this category would no longer be allowed under Protect Illinois Communities Act. It also goes into, according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Illinois was appropriated approximately $23.8 million in wildlife restoration funds in fiscal year 23, which is funded by revenue from the federal ammunition and firearms tax. In recent years, other firearms have contributed about 30% of that tax based on the data from the Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau. Applying this rates of the $23.8 million equals about $7.1 million in funding that could be associated with other firearm sales. The changes from the new gun law would likely reduce this amount by an unknown percentage, as it is, again, not precisely known how many of the purchase in this category would no longer be allowed under PICA. So really, it goes into saying that they don't necessarily know exactly the broad implications tax-wise, but they can assess that it could be, the extent of the reduction's unclear, but based upon available data, it's estimated that the other firearms category of firearms provided approximately $11.9 million to $16.1 million per year in revenues here in Illinois. Again, the precise number they can't necessarily define. But you've got the types of firearms most recently purchased And they say that semi-automatic handguns are 48.2%, revolver 17.8%, shotgun 12.6%, traditional rifle 11.1%, modern sporting rifles 9.8%, and then you've got the total black powder and muzzle loaders about 0.6%. So interesting to see that, and that's from the Sandwick Associates on behalf of Firearms Industry Trade Association in 2020. So I talked with State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer to get his reaction to this. He is a member of the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability, and here is the representative talking about what this ultimately means in his takeaway of reviewing this document.
Yeah, so COGFA released this report, and COGFA is the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability. They released this report that basically tries to figure out what the impact of the gun ban will be and the sales tax that will be missing. They tried to estimate because trying to figure out which guns would apply and which guns wouldn't and which categories. So their best estimate is anywhere from $5 to $9 million loss annually because of the gun ban. So it is an impact, and it's an impact on the state of Illinois at a time when revenues are coming down and we're not receiving all the federal bailouts that we've received over the past few years. So it's going to impact the state of Illinois negatively.
So Davidsmeyer also talking about the idea of we don't really know how many firearms there are in this category for a variety of reasons, and looking at the Illinois State Police and their firearms registry that's part of the Protect Illinois Communities Act. They still haven't updated those numbers, but even if you look at the total number of FOID cards, which are about 2.4 million, they have not updated this number for months, but you've got about 1.4 some odd percent. About 1.4 some odd percent in the rate of people who are FOID card holders actually registering. But the report from COGFA essentially said that they can't determine yet as to what the actual impact is. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And here's C.D. Davidsmeyer.
It's a bad thing that it seems that nobody knows how to figure out which guns are legal and which guns aren't. I mean, they wrote it fairly poorly, and that's what happens when you have somebody who doesn't know much about guns writing legislation to ban guns.
So you've also got the ongoing issue of the rules and the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules objecting to those rules from Illinois State Police, and yesterday we read Illinois State Police's response saying that they disagree with the objection, because Jay Carr said the objection is because things are too vague, and State Police said they disagree. Well, here's C.D. Davidsmeyer responding.
But it's equal number Democrat, equal number Republican. So the reality is this group is saying that the Illinois State Police didn't provide the information that they want. So it's up to the state police to go back to the drawing board and figure out what Jay Carr is really asking for and provide that information.
And also he's hearing a lot from his constituents as to how they're being impacted by this.
Yeah, the past year they feel like their rights are being violated, and I would absolutely agree that this law is unconstitutional. It's my hope that the United States Supreme Court will step in and be the voice of reason on this. For years, the answer is to take away guns from legal gun-owning citizens, and it's not fixing the problem. So we need to go back to the drawing board and find a real solution to gun crime.
And do want to recognize people saying there's bad dropouts. I am seeing my encoder dropping quite a bit, actually. So it's good that we record these locally so that you could watch this later when I do upload it right after the program. So hopefully you guys are able to either just come back and check that video out or muscle through the regular dropouts here. Oh, God. But, you heard Representative Davidsmeyer talk about people who you want to go after law-abiding gun owners. And you got the other side of this, those who want more gun control, talking about how they want to stop gun violence, right? They want to stop, people from committing violent acts with firearms, and they think that getting rid of the guns is the way to do that. But C.D. Davidsmeyer has a different take on how to address violence.
Certainly, it'll be all around. I mean, I was raised from a very young age with a healthy respect for firearms because I was raised around them. Safety first. I would never point a gun at somebody. You carry it with the muzzle up, muzzle down. Never in a direction of any other individual. I think we need to teach things like that in classrooms and no matter where you're at, not just in hunting communities, but in urban communities as well, so people understand the real impact that firearms can have on someone's life.
So when this measure passed, it barely passed the Illinois House. And there were some Democrats in the Illinois Senate that voted against it. 3 in particular come to mind. State Senator Doris Turner, when I asked her about it, she didn't necessarily want to address that question. I asked Senator Dave Kaler about it, and he said that he had some reservations about supporting the measure. And I also yesterday finally was able to get in front of State Senator Patrick Joyce, a Democrat from, I believe, the Kankakee area, and he spelled out why he did not support this. Again, a Democrat in the state Senate that didn't support the Protect Illinois Communities Act.
I think that it's a federal issue, and I come from an area in the district that a lot of hunting. I was raised in that type of atmosphere. I think that 2 things. Number one, you have to, the gun itself, and then the people who carry those guns, those that are habitual, offenders. Those are some of the issues, and I had a lot of constituents call me on the issue.
So Patrick Joyce not supporting it back in January of 2023, but again, here we are in March of 2024. And the saga continues. Appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning and muscling through, especially those in the live chat with all the dropouts. But again, we record the segments locally and upload them, so the live show is going to be a little weird for those that are catching the podcast. If you want to catch the segments, go to Bishop on Air on YouTube, Rumble, and wherever else you find your social media. All right, so make it happen. Bishop on Air. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out each and every weekday morning.